we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Hey, everybody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. People, it's good to have everybody here for the second live feed of the day. It's good to have my partner on the other side of the glass. Mark is here. It's always runs a little smoother. Mark probably doesn't realize that I may have not run the last feed exactly perfect. I may have picked up a nickname in the process. Let's just say that it had something to do with clumsy squirrels and large hands. And the word captain was in there as well. I may or may not have accidentally timed out the Swiss Vapor, trying to look at one of his comments. So, yeah. But on the bright side for all of you that, were bummed out that I accidentally timed out the Swiss Vapor, I'll have you know that after the last live feed, I actually had an opportunity to do a little one-on-one with Swiss Vapor from the office, which was cool. We did a little video chat, and it was a really cool opportunity to get to talk to him face to face. Great guy, really a good guy. And yes, Captain Clumsy Squirrel. Thank you, Fiona. I knew somebody would remember it verbatim. And now my bobbleheaded partner is really loving it. In fact, he may have just fallen out of his chair. That's all right, though, people. It happens. I have large hands. It's one of those things that one of the things that I need to work on. So, as I was telling you all in the beginning of the live feed that we did at 3:00, there will be some changes that are going to be made the first of the year. Mark and I are going to be tightening the boat up so that we can push this thing into some deeper waters. One of those is probably going to be to ensure that I don't touch anything anywhere ever. Kind of going to go that route, leave the touching of anything electronic to my partner, since he seems to do a considerably better job at it than I do. Also, we touched on this in the last live feed as well. There will be some slight program variations over the course of the next week, and we will ask that everybody just sort of make a slight allowance for the fact that I am heading down to Florida to go get the eyes looked at. Hopefully, get something done there and spend some time with some family. So, but I will be doing some broadcasting so that you can see the sea in the backdrop, and it won't be done on a green screen. It'll be the real deal. And taking a little time off, which is going to be, it's going to be cool. As most of you know, I spent a pretty hefty chunk of time incarcerated for things that I had done. If you're new to the lifeboat, my drug addict tendencies and my battle with heroin over a long period of time landed me in federal prison. So there are many things these days that are firsts. Getting an opportunity to spend time with family that for a great many of these family members, I can't remember the last time that I was around them sober. Um, I was under the influence for so many years that I don't remember a lot of anything for which I was sober. Every day it seems that I'm plowing new ground as I start to push forward, start to live my best life. There's a lot of things that you sort of take for granted. Over the Thanksgiving holiday, I talked a little bit about this, but I had a lot of people that came out and stayed here for Thanksgiving, and at one point there was probably 10 or 15 people, all gathered up, and to be in a crowd of people that size, it may look to you like I'm very, very comfortable in front of people because I sit and I talk to a camera. And I'm also pretty comfortable in the front of the room. I don't mind getting up and, doing presentations or making speeches. That's something that I've always been quite comfortable with. But, being in a situation where it's me and 5 or 10 people and, conversations are going on, that was something that I just, for so long, I did under the influence that when I do it these days, it just really feels foreign. And even when I know everybody there, I mean, there was nobody at the Thanksgiving festivities that that I haven't known my entire life. This is family. There was nobody there that wasn't part of my immediate family. But I had not been in that kind of social situation since the '80s. That I wasn't under the influence, and it really does take a good deal of adjustment. Something that every minute of every day, when you're deciding to fight addiction and really sort of make it your life, it's there's always a challenge. There's always something that's coming up. The nice thing is this, people, that no matter what those challenges are, the techniques are the same. It doesn't really matter whether I'm feeling somewhat disturbed by a crowd of people, or if it's a social situation, or if it's waiting on a line, or it's any of the things that sort of creep up on you and start to make you feel uncomfortable. The recipe for how you deal with these things never changes. I mean, there's slight variations, but it's always the same concept. One of the things that we really need to work on is staying in the moment. And I know that that sounds new age kind of stuff, but really all we're talking about when we say that, and this is a term that everyone's going to need to sort of get. There's a couple of terms, things we're going to be going over today that we really need to sort of hammer home, because I'm going to be doing pretty much the entire month of December is going to be, I'm sorry, the entire month of December, I'm going to be talking about the brain and how it sort of plays into this whole addiction thing. Obviously, the brain is the most important part of any discussion about addiction. However, oftentimes it's the same rhetoric that you hear time and time again. On the last live feed, I touched on something else that we're going to be going into this month. There are two basic techniques when you start to deal with living a sober life, or for that matter, living your best life. Even if you're not someone that's ever struggled with drug addiction, you're still struggling with the same things that anyone in recovery struggle with. It's just that people in recovery have an added layer that they have to cope with because they've spent so much of their life under the influence, that as you start trying to just live a normal existence on top of all of the day-to-day struggles that we come up with, we have to wrestle with the fact that for so long what we did was just to put that to bed, sort of table the motion by either drinking or drugging. We didn't deal with the day-to-day struggles that the normal world deals with in quite the same way. So we're going to be going over some terms and going over some things. The two main methods for dealing with any type of angst, any type of trouble that comes our way as we try to live a sober existence. The two things that jump up at you are you're either going to be adding or you're going to be taking away. If you can identify the problems in your life and the things that are really dragging you down, you can either try to supplement them by putting into play actions like sitting down, counting to 30, and then trying to redirect your mind by positive thoughts or visualizations. Those would be things that fall into the category of adding. You're adding to the toolbox, so to speak, of the brain. You're adding something in there to reprogram how you react to the day-to-day struggles and strifes that everybody has to deal with. The second way is something that is really gaining traction right now in psychology. and this is what people call shadow work, because it's not working by trying to push cool stuff into the forefront. It's doing the exact opposite. It's trying to remove the negative. And this, I think, is gaining traction for a lot of reasons. Number one, we're more geared for that, right? There's, let's say that you're talking about diet, right? You want to lose some weight. There's a couple of ways you can do it. Number one, you can go out and work out like a banshee, right? You can start doing all of these different things that are going to get you back into shape. You're going to start running, and you're going to start doing this, and you're going to start doing that, and all of those things work, right? But what you're doing is adding to your daily lifestyle as a way to try to get to your target, to the goal, whatever that goal is. I want to lose 10 pounds. Well, I'm going to run. I'm going to do some aerobic stuff. Then I'm probably going to push in a little bit of yoga. Okay, well, that's adding to, you understand? It's the same concept that you do to the mind when you're trying to reprogram it. Well, the other option is to stop eating as much, right? It is the easier of the two different methods. What you're going to do is say, all right, right now I'm working on about a 6,000 calorie a day intake, and I'm going to take that down to about 2,000 calories a day. Now, both of those individuals are going to get to the finish line, right? Both of them are going to end up losing 10 pounds. One is going to work considerably harder than the other. For that reason, the concept of working on the mind through this shadow technique for a lot of people is more desirable, as opposed to learning all of these techniques as a way to try to fix the problem at hand. Your best bet is to try to identify what that problem is and just avoid adding to it, if that makes sense. One of the reasons that we stress taking a snapshot of exactly what's going on at every moment of the day. If you start feeling a particular way, if you start to feel as if you're getting overwhelmed by anxiety, or if you start to feel that you're getting overwhelmed by anger or greed or any of the emotions that we have identified so many times on the last 4 or 5 live feeds as being sort of the negative end of the spectrum. When you start to feel those emotions, you got to pump the brakes. And if you can think about it in terms of taking a snapshot, right? What's going on right now? What am I looking at in my life? What am I feeling? If you're not identifying the feelings as they're coming up, then they're ruling your life. Does that make sense? If you're not identifying these things, because what we're going to be working on a lot this month is something that we're going to call ant, right? I don't know about you people. I'm not a fan. Ants tend to be a pain in the neck. I've always been a big fan of killing them. Sorry, but not a huge fan. I want them gone. Well, if you think of the term ant to mean automatic negative talk, some people call it self-talk. There's good self-talk and there is bad self-talk. Well, automatic negative talk would be the absolute worst of the phenomenon, and that's where you just sit there, and no matter what it is that you're looking at in life, you get these negative thoughts that just continually plague you. I'm not good enough. There's no way I may as well just go and eat this because I'm not going to lose the 10 pounds anyway. And we're getting into the holiday season, so screw it. That whole line of thought, those negative, thoughts that automatically just continue to come into your life that we call ants, have an amazing effect on the body. Now, I don't just mean the mind. They have an amazing effect on the body. You find people, if you're trying to get excited about a New Year's resolution, or in my case, a December resolution, and you start getting that automatic negative talk that says, there's no point even trying in December. This is the month where you're going to be eating a bunch anyway. And you're trying to give up nicotine. You're going to have to stress all these people in Florida that you haven't seen in a decade or two. Man, what are you going to do to deal with that stress? You may as well, if you allow that to keep going and keep going and keep going, then what happens is you start to get depressed and physical symptoms start to happen. This is anytime someone describes depression, what's one of the first things they talk about? You get a complete lack of energy, right? You lose all of that drive. And people who suffer from depression and really start to get into it, oftentimes can't get out of bed. Well, that is a physical manifestation of exactly what's going on in your brain. If you can eliminate that negative talk, then you're going to find yourself with more energy. You're going to find yourself with all of those symptoms that the depression is causing will start to go away. So it really becomes the desire and the drive has to be to put negative talk into the rearview mirror. And to become good at that, you're going to have to identify it. Now you can then try to combat it by working out, so to speak, which is by putting more things into the brain that are going to, alleviate or override all of those negative thoughts. And you're basically trying to reprogram by doing the equivalent of positive affirmations. And then also, if you're in a place where everything's really starting to bum you out, think of your happy place as not just a joke that people say in movies, right? Thinking of a happy thought or a happy place really can stop negative talk in its tracks, but it is adding to the equation. The shadow work is to do the exact opposite. And earlier on, I probably should have a coin, but if you think about yourself as a heads and a tails kind of a thing, right? There's one side that we keep in the light at all times, right? I'm nice, I'm charming, I'm happy, right? All of the things that you want the world to see. You could think about it in terms of your Facebook profile, but for life, right? We're not showing anybody the backside. We're not showing anybody all of the stuff that sort of takes place in the shadows. Well, you probably have a better chance for a lot of people to eliminate the backside than to continually add to the front side. So for the month of December, we're going to be looking at all of the different methods that are gaining traction in the sobriety community in terms of how to get control of the mind. One of the other things that I'm really looking forward to is showing some actual sort of bread and butter science to back up a lot of what we talk about. Because let's be honest, people, we get arguments constantly about things like whether or not addiction is a disease, right? This is something that you hear all of the time. And I've said so many times, I don't care, right? Doesn't matter to me whether you call it a disease or whether you call it an affliction or whether you call it a thing or whatever you want to call it. There is something that happens in the mind of the addict that doesn't happen to other minds. And that because of that, we are unique. Whether you want to call that a disease or not, that's fine. But we're different than other people, which is why we were susceptible to alcohol or drugs in a way that other people aren't. Now, people will still argue that with me. However, in the month of December, we're going to be showing you guys some pictures that we're taking of the mind. Now, you've probably seen PET scans and CAT scans and MRIs and things like that of the brain before. What those do is they take a static image of the brain. It gives you literally a snapshot of what's happening at the brain at any given time. However, there is another method. And oddly enough, it is the oldest of the methods, not the newest of the methods, right? And it is called SPEC, right? Which stands for Single Photon Emission Computed Tomography, which I'm sure you've been dying to know, right? What this does, it's nuclear medicine. They're going to take an isotope and put it into you the same way that they do if you're having an upper GI done or you're having any number of tests that they need to put something radioactive into you. If you think about it in terms of like a beacon of light, because that's really what this does. It shines out from the brain so that they can take a picture and an image while something is going on, as opposed to just a static image of somebody laying there. You can actually have someone in the process of doing X, Y, or Z, and we can see exactly what happens in the mind of a user, in the mind of someone that isn't a user, in the mind of an addict versus someone who isn't an addict. And it paints a picture that you no longer can argue. Now, the reason this never really seemed to catch a lot of momentum in the in the whole realm of recovery is because for the longest period of time, the technology stunk, right? The MRI, the PET scan, all of those, much higher technology. It's a better form of medicine as far as people were concerned. Then, instead of having a one-head, very antiquated computer camera, the cameras became very, very high tech. And a couple of doctors started to go back and do the SPEC tests over again with a much higher resolution. A person used to have to lay for like 30 minutes without moving at all, which made it very difficult. So if you wanted them to do something while laying there and doing that, there's no way that you're going to, perform any kind of a task while sitting still for 30 minutes and taking a look at the brain. Well, the technology got to a point where now it's something that they can take that image in a matter of seconds. And it has enabled scientists to take a look at the brain of different individuals and determine exactly what is going on inside that brain and show us some pictures so that for the first time in a long time, A lot of the things that have been debated about the mind of an addict versus the mind of someone who is not can't be debated anymore. Now you can still call it whatever you'd like. Truthfully, that's one of those things that I think is very much in human nature, where I don't care how much this changes over the course of the next 30 or 40 years. They can find a gene for it. They can do whatever. There are going to be people for whom calling drug addiction a disease is always going to be a stumbling block. The really funny thing, people, is I don't think we spend a lot of time realizing that almost everybody's on the same page. For those people who say, no, it's a choice, well, no one is saying it's not, right? There are diseases that are caused by bad choices, tons of them, right? You can get lung cancer from bad choices. I think we're all in agreement on that. You can get the second type of diabetes by making bad choices. Now, you still need to have the precursor somewhere in the body for that. Well, that's how we view addiction, right? You have to have the precursor somewhere in the body, but your habits, can be the same as someone who does the exact same thing. Both of you can do the same thing every day for the same period of time, and one has no problem just putting it down and the other can't. Now, there are people on this planet, no matter what you do for evidence, who are always going to go, well, one of them just got willpower and the other one just doesn't have willpower. I promise you, people, if it was that simple, if it was just a matter of willpower, there wouldn't be Narcotics Anonymous, there wouldn't be Alcoholics Anonymous, there wouldn't be the Lifeboat, and there wouldn't be anybody in rehabilitation anywhere in the world. They would just work on different forms of gritting your teeth and getting to it. But the fact remains that that's simply not the case. And when they start to do studies on these people, and some of them are doctors from Harvard, who ended up getting addicted to one substance or another, who also ran Ironman triathlons. You would think this is probably a cat with a little bit of willpower, right? When your body says, no, you're going to quit. No, I'll continue to ride this bike for 112 miles and then run a marathon. That's somebody with a little bit of willpower. Yet, in spite of the fact that all of that willpower exists, it was still almost impossible for them to put down, whatever their drug of choice happened to be. These kinds of things that aren't empirical necessarily, but when you start to look at pictures of the minds of these people, there are patterns that are ironclad. And in the month of December, we're going to be taking a really good look at this. But I wanted to get over a couple of terms. The first, obviously, was ANT. It's a big one, automatic negative talk. We're going to be hearing about this a lot, because no matter what road we take in terms of trying to reprogram the mind, which is what we're going to be doing in the month of December, so that on January the 1st, when most of the world makes New Year's resolution, you will have some tools that give you a better opportunity to try to actually reach a level of success, right? So this is a good month to get this all into place. So ANT, right? And then we went over SPECT. I think that's just the technology that we were talking about. Now we're going to be looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts of the brain and their effect on addiction. The first is going to be the deep limbic system. The second is going to be the basal ganglia, then the prefrontal cortex, the cingulate system, and finally the temporal lobes. And what each of these individual systems do, not only in the healthy individual, but we're going to be taking a very hard look at what happens on the individual that is not working out exactly the way it's supposed to. And what I found interesting when I started studying this stuff was that I was always under the assumption that there was parts of my brain that just didn't work. Like I really believed that because of my particular problem, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm a genius or a guru or anything else, but I am self-aware and I'm not stupid. But I did some really stupid things. And it's something that you wrestle with. I mean, I think every addict wrestles with the stupid things they did while they were under the influence. If one of those stupid things was rob a bank, it probably makes it a little bit more difficult for you to wrap your brain around, exactly what was going on. And I've said it on here before, who in their right mind would do that? Well, obviously I wasn't in my right mind. And this was something that I really struggled with. But when I started to look at this, as it turns out, there's nothing in my brain not working. There's just things in my brain that are working way better than they're supposed to. And very oftentimes it's not a matter of a deficit. It's a matter of a part of your brain that is working so hard and so fast that basically it doesn't shut down. And when it doesn't, you're left with some of the really poor impulse control and really bad decision making that leads to great behavior, like actually robbing a bank or doing any of the other stupid things that that I did while under the influence for better than 3 decades, right? A little over 30 years spent living in that lifestyle. Fortunately, if you're just joining me here on the boat, that ended on the 26th of June in 2015. So for the last going on 6.5 years now, I have been living the good life, fighting the good fight, so to speak, and daily overcoming the problems that I had that drove me to use. And now I'm sort of getting to that part of addiction where the desire to understand why starts to become very intense. And I think this happens to a lot of people in recovery. I think you reach a point at which you got it under control, at least in terms of understanding what it is you need to do each day to remain sober. Then you get the overwhelming desire to figure out exactly what was going on that drove that kind of ridiculous and not the most intelligent behavior, which is where I find myself these days. But people, I do want to spend plenty of time tonight opening up the live chat. The reason being that yesterday we had a situation where both Mark and I had something come up that made it difficult for us to get on the live feed. So there are a lot of people that normally would have been here at 6 o'clock to talk about things going on in their lives and didn't get that opportunity last night. We apologize. We do try to make sure that happens as infrequently as possible, but nevertheless, there will be times that there's no getting around that. And as I said as well, 2 things from the earlier live feed. Yeah, I'm going to be on vacation next week, so just bear with any small changes. We're still going to be doing the same thing, but there may be, just a few changes in terms of maybe some timing or whatever. But we will be doing what we do. I assure you of that. And the other thing is, as we're coming up to the new year, everybody makes New Year's resolutions. Did an entire live feed on it where we talked about the New Year's resolution. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Blah, blah. The boat is going to be making some New Year's resolutions as well, right? Anything, if it's healthy, it probably ought to be done. And it's a very healthy thing for the lifeboat, I think, to lay out some goals as well, some things that they want to do for 2022. And I would encourage everybody on the boat to please weigh in. If there's something on your mind that you think that we're doing that we shouldn't be doing, or if you think that there's something that we should be doing that we're not, reach out to myself or to Mark and let us know about it. Because as we shape this boat, it's the one thing that we want to make sure that we never do is not take anyone else into account. I think it's a mistake that happens a lot in communities of every kind. If there's somebody that sort of is the focal point, for lack of a better way to put it, of the channel, they tend to make decisions as if they're the only ones that matter. And I want to make sure that does not happen. This is your boat. It's not ours. We've said that from the word go, and we really truthfully mean it. So any thoughts, things of that nature, don't be shy. Reach out and let us know. And at this point, I think what I will do is turn this over to my bobble-headed partner on the other side of the glass, and who's not going to say anything about Captain, Clumsy Squirrel. He's just going to let that one go. Got his yah-yahs out earlier. And Mark, how are you?
Yeah, fat chance on that one. No, I'm just kidding. It's just a great, what we're doing right here with this topic is awesome. I think it's something that most people can try to learn from, and we do it in a way, guys, and I think you guys can agree that it's pretty understandable how we present it. We try to make sure that it's there and everybody can see it and understand it. And that's why, like we're opening this up earlier tonight, because this is really why we do what we do. So we can have this conversation. And there's a lot of new people in here tonight, and thank you guys for stopping in here and participating in the chat. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name. Is it Anaya or something like that? 28 years of continuous sobriety. That's awesome. I noticed you said something about trying to during quarantine was difficult to go to meetings, and yes, that's actually something that I think it hit a lot of people in recovery kind of sideways. when all that stuff happened. It definitely put a wrench into things. Not a blue one, just a regular wrench. But but yeah, it and even with my own recovery with Suboxone and stuff, we started doing our group meetings through Zoom. There was no person to person or physical contact there at all, and there was a little bit of intimacy there lost, but for the most part, it was okay. And in some ways, it was even better because it's a little bit more convenient, but it also allowed, kind of like what we talk about here, you don't have to worry about immediate, you don't have to be embarrassed. You don't feel as though you're saying something in front of somebody, like what Tommy was talking about earlier with, how it was much easier when, it's a different thing before and after your addiction, right? When you get in front of people, because you're so used to going up there, and sometimes, almost all the time, I would venture to say, when you're taking your drug of choice, that wall goes away. You just simply don't care. You open up. It's much like, there's a reason why there's alcohol at parties. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons, because it lets people, it enables people to drop that wall. And unfortunately, that's a bad thing in some situations. We're not here to judge whether you drink alcohol at Christmas parties or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not even necessarily against it unless that was your addiction. And I think that, this time of year, that's a very, very legitimate topic, because, right about now is when everybody's going to their company Christmas parties and all those things. And that can be a really, really difficult thing for somebody in recovery. I know when I first got my help, and when I went to my wife's, she works at a bank. So obviously you got to understand there was like 200 people, and we go to this big fancy golf course, country club type of situation where I live. And, it was just, yeah, it was done to the hilt is what I'm trying to say. It was just one of those environments, but at the same time, it was an open bar. And, well, it was open bar for the first couple of years until they decided it was costing too much money.
Nice.
Yeah, anyway, but then they stopped it like after an hour after you got there. You had open bar for like an hour, and then you had to pay after that. But with being in recovery, even though my addiction was not alcohol, I didn't want to become codependent on something. And so I was trying to avoid all of it. And it was kind of difficult in situations like that. And I found myself not as open. You kind of reserved at first. And what I'm saying is your brain, like we just talked about a minute, this whole stream, you have to relearn those things. You have to relearn those skills. You have to start applying them in different directions in ways you didn't think that you needed to. And I do think that that's a big hurdle that people have to get across. Just realizing that's what you got to do is half the battle. If you don't know that you have to make that kind of a change, or you don't know exactly why you're feeling the way you do, it makes it difficult to correct it. And if you understand, and I know that me and Tommy both, even before we met each other, really dove into all this stuff. And when we started talking to each other for the first time, it was like I was talking to myself in the mirror, because nobody else that I had spoke to prior to had any kind of close to the same amount of self-education, is what I would call it. Just he understood exactly what I was saying, and the same when he was talking to me, I understood what he was saying, and we didn't get that very often. And I think that's why we're so effective in what we're doing here, because we're able to share that with you guys. And I think that there's a lot of people out there that feel exactly how me and Tommy do, and that's why people are here and they're doing what they're doing here, and they're getting help, and it's comfortable and all that kind of stuff. And again, it's you guys, it's the chat. It really is. You guys really, I can't say it enough, and I know that it probably gets oversaid if that's even possible, but it just simply is the truth, guys. I feel so fortunate to even be able to share my story with anybody that can even halfway understand it. And then for them to take my story and apply it to their own life and to get help that way, it's very humbling. At the same time, I'm very proud about it. It's one of those things. But yeah, so as far as the brain goes, again, we're going to get into, obviously we're going to, a lot of the biological things that are going on there. We're going to get into those, I'm sure, some of the psychology parts of it and physical, all that kind of stuff that need to be understood a little bit better, that unfortunately get kind of brushed aside. Because I really think that, like, counselors, just, I guess, corporations, I don't really want to call it corporations, but like clinics and stuff like that, they don't think that we can understand. So they don't go in deep, like they know knowledge. They know everything that me and Tommy's talked about. They just don't verbalize it because they were taught this stuff in school, and they think it's something that the general public cannot understand. And that's just simply not the case. And it's not all organizations, okay? But for the most part, you run into a licensed counselor and stuff like that, and there's really, really great ones. But they're not going to, not just to say that they only get like an hour with you. That's probably the biggest hurdle, because we're here every day. And you guys, we're able to have multiple conversations, continue a conversation from yesterday, not from a month or a week ago. So those feelings are still there and it's still fresh in your mind, and you're able to bring that back up and talk about it all the time if you need to. You got contacts with us behind the scenes if you need it, Facebook groups, all that kind of stuff that you're not going to get. They offer it. The counselor will say, yeah, call me if you need it. But let's be honest, guys. Who calls that? I mean, I'm just being honest. I know I've never called a counselor outside of regular operating hours. Now, when I first got treatment, yes, of course I did, because I was just trying to figure something out. And that's why we give you guys the helplines. And those are very important things you guys need to understand, that if you know somebody, or if you're listening to me and not talking in the chat, if you're feeling a certain way, guys, please go to those numbers. If you're not comfortable contacting me or Tommy or talking in the chat, use those numbers. That's what they're there for. It can't hurt to make a phone call. So that's, I really want to stress that, because, at the end of the day, Tommy's going back to school to be a doctor. But at this point, we're not doctors. We're just sharing our life. We're sharing our journey. We're sharing what we have learned. And is there going to be times we get things wrong? Of course there is, guys. I mean, we're human. Doctors get things wrong. If they didn't, nobody would die. So what I'm saying is that we're here sharing that, and I hope that you guys really get a lot from it. And I know a lot of you do. And I would venture to say all of you guys do something. And, I can't say it enough that I appreciate you guys that open up in there. I love the goodbye letters. I love the interviews and stuff that we do. Those kinds of things, they really hit you personally. They really do. They'll get you right in the heart. And, don't be afraid to drop that wall and let that hit you in the heart. Because I'm telling you, you drop that wall, hit you in the heart, it eventually ends up in your brain. And then you're in good shape, because then you understand, and then you can correct problems. So that's kind of where, we oftentimes separate the brain and the heart. We do. And when I say heart, I'm talking about emotion, stuff like that. How you feel, not what you're thinking. I mean, we talked about this earlier this week. But, you got to try to relate that to one another, and you got to be able to react. And I think that's what's good about what you guys do for each other in there. And let me say this too. I get more knowledge and learning from watching you guys talk to each other than I could ever give. Just watching what happens in there and listening and paying attention. It's school in itself. It's, I don't know how else to say it. It really is. And I hope you guys understand that and how fortunate I feel to be here and be able to even see this. Like Tommy said the other day, there's going to come a time when, if me and Tommy were to get in the car together and go down the street and God forbid get smacked by a semi and we're no longer here, well, I promise you, somebody in this chat is going to pull that grain right back up and this boat ain't going to sink. It's going to keep moving. And that is you guys, not us. So, yeah.
All righty. Tell you what, this is a great opportunity to be a squirrel today. You know that? It really is. This is a great live chat. There's a couple of comments that jumped out at me that I got to comment on. First, Derek Ann, congratulations on the birth of your daughter. I know that you're feeling a little stressed out and, with understandable reasons for those of you who may not have caught it. He said that, she was born with a hole or two in her heart, I believe is what he said. But I want to tell you something, Derek. You have seen Cedar in the live chat before. Cedar Scoville, that would be my daughter. My daughter was born with half a heart, truthfully. So something called hyperplastic left heart syndrome, which is a genetic birth defect. And they built her a heart out of the two valves that were there. And that was 18 years ago, almost 18 years ago now. You just there was some really good advice by Truth. Just, you know what, pray, live every second and be thankful for it. And you watch what they can do with medicine is just phenomenal. This is not as rare as you'd think. And the fact that they're sending her home tomorrow is a pretty good sign. Congratulations. And if you think of it, how about putting her name up in the chat so that we can say a prayer for her and celebrate with you. That is awesome. There was also a comment from Badger Life. In fact, there was a couple. First of all, Badger Life is sober, not in the life, but took someone in 3 years ago who is, was in need of, as she put it, getting out of the drug pool and away from all of that. And also left a comment talking about how, you really should help one person, at least at some point in the life. It really is an amazing thing. And what a great, just an awesome thing to see. And again, not very rare. We see a lot of people that come here who do not have drug problems, but have people in their lives that do, or just feel the need to come here and give back. We have some of the greatest crew members on this boat are people who have been sober or out of the life for so long, but come here just to support all of the people that are fighting the good fight. But Badger Life, we're really, really blessed to have you here. That is awesome. And then I believe it was Kiwi Lass, and then Against the Grain. Really happy to have all of you here. Truthfully honored. That's awesome. It's there's nothing more exciting than looking out into the comment section and seeing people that aren't here every day. It's great. It's the dream of the boat is to reach as many people as possible.
I think
there was a great. Go ahead.
I think Against the Grain, if you're still here, I think that's Igor from over in Croatia. I think he's in Croatia.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, he has a YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure it's him. He said he came over.
Awesome.
He heard it from my channel, probably from the live stream I just did. But he's been doing space stuff and all that stuff for a long way before I was. He's a
Cool.
He's a musician. He's from Croatia. Pretty cool stuff, man.
Yeah, very, very cool. And welcome all of you. It's and Badger Life, my hat is off to you. Really, truthfully, that every time I hear a story like that, it touches my heart, because one of the reasons that the lifeboat was necessary is because there aren't enough people like you. I mean, that's really the truth of it. The fact is that there aren't a lot of people that reach out and really try to help people who are in the life, unless they happen to be in the life as well. But for people who are sober to do it, boy, that is the dream. If everybody in society had the exact same thought that you had, let's just get one person that we're going to help, then we wouldn't be in any of the danger that we were in. It's really, really awesome. It's really, really happy to have
awesome
you.
Comment, Truth. That's a good one there. I never understood the groups that separated addicts from those who have been affected by them. It helps to understand each other. 100%. 100%.
You know what? Yeah, that really is a great comment. and that is a Yahushua's disciple says 100% spot on, Truth. You know what, Truth? That is That's as good as it gets, and it is very common. You're absolutely right. Most of the time, they do like to sort of set them off into two different groups, but the benefit that you get from the people that it just, yeah, having people here that just are here to give back is, it's not just that you get the benefit from it, but it's inspirational for everybody. It's so awesome. And one of our crew members that is just consistently here day in, day out doing this, Jacob Forrester, and leaves some of the most insightful comments that I learn from this guy on a daily basis. I really do.
Yep.
And and he's here just to give back. That's amazing stuff.
That's what I was saying earlier. We learn so much more just by watching this chat, and
there's no question.
And I'm going to say this too real quick. Guys, I really appreciate you trusting me enough to come over from my channel. I really, Anjanya, I believe is how you say the name. Thank you for trusting me enough to at least come over here and check it out. And, Yahusha's disciple was commenting there too, same kind of thing. And I get it, guys. I know a lot of you are here from my channel, but if my channel has never done anything for anybody else but get you here, I'm happy. Honestly. And that's really what I'm saying. Not that I don't care about space weather, because I do, right? I mean, that's my thing. I mean, it is what it is, but this is really where I think I can help people the most, and affect their lives the most. And that's why I, do this. And I've said it before, we're not going to send you guys someplace that is negative. It just is not, it's not something I'll do ever. I showed people my subscription list on my YouTube channel. I don't hide it, right? And there's people on there that I never mention, and the reason why it ain't because they don't say good stuff sometimes. It's because of the way they present it in a negative fashion. And I won't push you guys that direction. It's there if you want to go look at it, but I'm not going to promote that. You see what I'm saying? We gotta make sure that we're trying to do that in the right way. All of it, this included. I mean, there's a negative way to do what me and Tommy are doing. There's a very negative way you could do that. And we just choose not to do that. And you know where it all starts? It starts with two things: selfishness and judgment. That's where all that negative stuff starts. Because they're doing it for the wrong reasons, and then they're judging everybody that ain't doing it the way that they are. And that's, that is a bigger problem. But I just want to say thanks to everybody that comes over from my channel. I really appreciate you guys. And I know I say it a lot. And believe it or not, guys, I get flack for saying it. And, it just tells you the state of what's going on around us. I mean, who gets on somebody for giving somebody else a compliment? I mean, you got to ask yourself, how miserable is somebody to actually do that? It just makes you wonder. And I'm just so glad that I didn't fall into that line. You know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway. Happy in misery.
The opportunity to put a name to a prayer, it's always a nice thing. Positive thought, energy, whatever you want to do. The name is Rosalind. Beautiful name for Derek's baby girl. It's going to be coming home tomorrow. So if we could keep Rosalind in our thoughts and prayers, that would be awesome. 357 is back in the house. Always exciting. 357, good to see you, man. Reached out to me, and some very, very positive guy. He also asked about about Joe Birdwell. Joe is still here, still with us. We keep in contact with him through text messages. The holiday season is a bit of a weight on everybody. He catches the feeds when he can, but has also been doing a lot of watching the kids around the house. So there are times we don't use the L word anymore, right? We've decided that we call them observers. So there are times that he will be observing, but won't be weighing in. But I think 60, almost 70 days, so he's into his third month. And still going strong. We're couldn't be any happier for him. He's still sort of the face of the lifeboat in a lot of ways.
100%, Anjanya.
I love the baby's name. Yep. You know what? I do too. That is a beautiful name.
That's an awesome name. It really is. It's pretty. Really, really pretty name.
Yep. I love it. Flamin' Jackson. Wanted to congratulate you as well. I believe Flamin' Jackson's on day 17. I gave you a shout out on the last live feed, but I don't think you were on it. We're proud of you, Jackson. Really, really proud of you. That's good stuff.
Drink the blood. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Cindy, I don't know that you caught this either, Mark, but Cindy is she is alcohol free. So tomorrow will be
Awesome.
day 2 for Cindy. Super, super stoked about that. She's fighting the good fight. So yeah,
Awesome. Awesome. Good to see
yep.
you, Christine. Always glad to have you here. You're awesome, just so you know. I know I say it a lot, but my gosh, you know, if anybody ever wanted to learn how to be a good moderator, sign up to the moderating school of Christine because she will show you how to do it. I'm telling you. Wow. She wrote the book on that one.
Oh, I guess it's Rose Lynn, brother, like the flower. My bad, my brother.
Still a pretty name.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's very.
Joanna W says, "Woo-hoo! Congrats, Flaming Jackson. Way to go!" I'm telling you, you were at church. Well, you get a pass. I just wanted to make sure that you heard it. We're not going to make you off the plank for it, Jackson. Just wanted to make sure that you heard the. Wanted to make sure you heard the shout out. We are awfully proud of you, man. We really are. It's
yeah.
You're deep into it, man. You are deep into it, and that is amazing. So
100% amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's yeah. I tell you guys, early recovery it's difficult. It really is. And what was difficult for me, the most difficult thing for me was the roller coaster of emotions. Because you just don't, your brain just doesn't know where to go. And it's odd. It really is. No other way to say it.
Here's a comment right along those lines. When I came in 28 years ago, I was white knuckling it. I didn't know if it would work. I had a million miracles happen to convince me to keep going. You know something? There are a lot of people who, go the white knuckle route, especially in the beginning. And even with all of the tools laid out in front of you, the first 3 weeks to a month for most people, there's a lot of white knuckling that goes on. Even if you're doing it in a group of people and you're doing it with every single available tool at your disposal, you're always going to come down to that. I'm just not going to do it today. And I remember I've said this a lot on videos before, but while incarcerated from this time of year to January 1st, in fact, from just the beginning of November to January 1st, that's when you see, the drugs, the overdoses, the suicides, because it's, and for me, I did, 5 Christmases, in there after getting sober, and it was white knuckling it every single year. I mean, even when I had 3 years in, I went from living one day at a time to living, 1 hour at a time. And there were plenty of opportunities in there for me to live literally 1 minute at a time, where I would get up and run around or go outside or try to get someplace where I would just be away from everybody. But I think that you nailed it in that comment. It takes a million miracles. But one of the things that we talk about and one of the things that we believe in is that you make a lot of those miracles. You know what I mean? When you're as opposed to working that ant, when you have that automatic negative talk, when you are sitting there and doing the exact opposite, man, I know I can do this. I know I can do this.
Badger,
I am not doing this today. You sort of create a lot of those miracles. A lot of those things seem to fall into place if you're fighting the good fight. And it doesn't hurt to have an entire family of people that want to help you.
Yep.
Which is kind of what we do here, people.
Yeah.
If you just got here tonight, there's a cliche that you hear all the time that people say you can't pick your family. Well, we here on the Lifeboat say you absolutely can.
Badger Life makes a great comment there. Your brain don't think right for a long time. Don't let your brain lie to you. That's a very, very good way to say it. It really is. Doomfist. Good to see you.
Doomfist. It wasn't who you think. It wasn't who you all think it was. There's more than one out there. Okay. I'm not sure exactly where Doomfist.
Yeah, I'm a little confused with that one. I don't. Yeah, not sure where that.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I'm confused often. So.
Yeah, me too.
So I'll take that.
Back to you, T. Prada. You're awesome.
Yeah, it's a, I have a hard time with overthinking, says Miss B. Everybody does, Miss B.
Yeah.
Everybody has a hard time with overthinking. One of the things, the goal is to try to get that thinking under control. Even if you're going to let it run wild, what you try to do is just eliminate the thoughts that are negative. As long as you can work on because there's two sort of, the whole concept of meditation where you try to put the brain to sleep. It's a beautiful concept, but for a lot of people, it's almost impossible. So right now, one of the more popular methods is to just let your brain go, as opposed to trying to keep it, from thinking about things. Just don't try to let it obsess. So sit for 10 or 15 minutes. And as the thoughts come in, jump from one to the next. If a thought comes in, whether it's good, bad, or ugly or whatever, you just don't dwell on any of those and just try to get that one out of your mind as if you were trying to meditate. And what most people will find is within a second, another one comes in. And it becomes a matter of just not allowing your brain to lock in on any one thought for too long a period of time. And once you sort of start to master that, I think it becomes an easier thing, because everybody wrestles with that. That is not unique. Everybody feels that inability to, calm down the thoughts, especially when you first get sober. It's one of the things that, we've talked about so much in the last 4 or 5 live feeds. When you first get sober, there's a part of your brain that's been asleep for a long time that is now awake and it wants to play, and that is the emotional part of the brain. When it wakes up after in my case, a 30-year nap, a commercial for Walmart would come on and show a family and I'd be in tears. It was just one of those kind of things where, you're going to run away with thoughts and emotions when you first get clean and you're no longer drugging your brain. It really does seem to come alive in a way that is difficult to control. But as long as you don't focus and get overwhelmed, you know what I mean? Just go from one to the next. Don't latch on to any one negative thought and hold on to it. That would be my advice.
Yeah, there was some. I can't remember who left a comment there, but that's good advice too. Like during the first year of recovery, you might not want to make huge decisions. Like really.
It's a great piece of advice.
Yeah.
That is an absolute great piece of advice.
For exactly what Tommy said.
They say don't fall in love either.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole reason Tommy just said, he could be watching a Walmart commercial and start crying. That's why you don't want to make big decisions that early on, because you're not going to be able to think about it the right way. I'm talking big decisions. The stuff that Tommy's talking about is just anything that comes into your mind, jumping back and forth. Believe it or not, it's really, like Tommy just said, it's healthy because it keeps our mind busy. And that's one of the biggest things we fight as people in recovery. You never know when a trigger's going to hit, but I can tell you right now, early in recovery, they're going to hit all the time.
No question.
And being able to have something else to think about at that same time is crucial. You will get so much further a lot quicker if you just allow yourself just to think about other stuff and try. Physically stimulate yourself too, as far as like looking at things and make yourself go outside. I can't tell you how big of a deal that is. Go outside. I don't care if it's just going out in your front yard for 15 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever it is. Start small if you have to reassert yourself back into society. Because that's really what happens. As addicts, we pull ourselves out of that. We're no longer part of the general society. We're in a whole different category while you're doing all that. And I think it's pretty obvious just by watching any kind of documentary you want to key up on. But yeah, it's, yeah. So don't make any big decisions, in my opinion, right at the beginning. Very good advice.
Definitely sound advice. And Christine, speaking of sound advice, Christine, our master wrench wielder, has advised us that we are at the witching hour. So we did start a couple of minutes late. So we finished a couple of minutes late, sort of brought it into the 1 hour mark. People, if you're new here, we do try to keep them at 1 hour so that when our partner YouTube actually pushes us out and other people get a chance to see it, they don't run. Statistically speaking, anything over an hour kind of gets poo-pooed. But have no fear. We will be back tomorrow twice. We have a 3 o'clock and a 6 o'clock, and we will be back tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock in the AM to tell you everything that's going on. Between now and then, we have one assignment for you. We'd like you to reach out and try to save somebody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages.
Good night, everybody.